Hello everyone, welcome to What If Madara Uchiha was in Highschool DxD movie. Before we start, please go support Issei in 1993 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender. After his death, he has a small encounter with the wise man of the six paths. Prologue. An immense emptiness was what surrounded Madara. It was the only thing he saw around him. After dying earlier at the hands of the Black Setsu, he himself appeared in this place that is known as Black Without End. Madara noticed that his strength had returned and he felt better than ever. But despite that, he only felt indifference when he was in that place. With nothing else to do, he sat in the lotus position and began to meditate on his life. Despite having done many bad things, he did not regret his actions. On the contrary, he was proud of it. Everything he did was for nothing more and nothing less than two things: trying to fulfill his younger brother Izuna's dream of a world of peace, which Rias achieved after killing all the inhabitants of the elemental continent, and his greatest ambition of becoming the executor of it. It's a shame that his happiness only lasted a little. He knew that the Setsu was using him, but there was nothing he could do, which made him angry since he needed his help to achieve his goal. "Whatever you want, old man," said Madara while his eyes were closed. Suddenly the black place where they were was changed by a more decent panorama, and in front of him was an old man floating on what would be a large lake of water. "I see you don't regret what you did. Why should I do it? Did I misunderstand that I'm seeking world peace in this world dominated by war and misery?" Madara said. "Even so, your methods were not correct. And look who says it, she who started this senseless dispute. I just wanted us all to get along. I just wanted us to be equal," the old man replied. "And look what you achieved, entire generations of struggle for power, starting with your children." Madara's answer left the old man speechless. "Tell me what you're looking for from me. I highly doubt you're just coming to greet me, Otsutsuki Hasuromo," said Madara as he opened his eyes, showing the Rinnin Sharingan spinning violently. "I want to make a deal." Chapter 1. The Deal. "What's the deal you're talking about, old man?" Madara said as he continued looking at him. "Before I tell you what it is, could you tell me how you got that variation in your eyes?" "I'm not obligated to tell you, but since you're curious, I'll tell you." The old man paid attention. "When I was fighting that brat with hair that looked like a duck's ass, I managed to get a little of his chakra and combined it with Hashirama's cells, and by sending this combined chakra I managed to have this variant," he said simply. "I see you know how to adapt quite well," said Rikudo while stroking his white beard. "Stop wasting your time, damn old man, and tell me what you want from me," said Madara with annoyance. "Well, I want to send you to a random world with this," he said while showing her a small orb with a flower. "What the hell is that?" he said, looking at the globe seriously. "This is the Jubi. The reincarnations of my children Indra and Ashura managed to defeat my mother the rabbit goddess when she took possession of your body, and they also managed to defeat the Black Setsu, thus freeing the 9 Biju, but after doing that there was a remnant, which is this flower that you see here," said Hagoromo Otsutsuki the Rikudo Sennin. "I see what you're trying to do. You'll send me to another world along with the Sinja flower, which is the origin of the chakra in this world, and thus get rid of your future problems since I'm the only one who can control it," said Madara while closing his eyes again. "I see you understand. Tell me, would you be willing to do me this big favor?" There was a brief silence before Madara responded. "If so, I will set a condition. I want to be able to use the nature chakra. I want to be able to use the Sennin mode," he said while opening his eyes again, revealing his normal eyes. The old wise man was a little hesitant. On the one hand he wanted to get rid of that flower, and on the other he told him that it was a bad idea for Madara to be able to access that power. Only a few seconds passed, but they were enough to decide. "Well, that seems like a fair deal to me. You can use Sennin mode. The Rikudo Sennin creates an orb of greenish energy that enters Madara, and then the flower does the same. After doing that, Madara felt that his power increased in an abysmal way. Now he was stronger than before. But before doing anything, a black hole appeared below him, swallowing him. The last thing I heard was the old man say, "I hope you enjoy your new life." Madara woke up in a park. He saw everything analytically while trying to figure out where he was. He saw a metal carriage moving very fast while it had an announcement written on it. "I see. I'm no longer in my world." Madara walked for a while. During that time he realized several things. The first and most important was the air had a horrible smell, but at the same time very familiar. It smelled like smoke. The second was that the houses were bigger and stronger compared to the houses of his old world. Several of these were almost as big as the clan chiefs or bigger. The third was the language was exactly the same as the one he spoke and knew. Madara walked for a while longer while he saw that people looked at him in a strange way. That was because he used his armor created by one of the paths. Night fell and Madara went to the same spot where he appeared and began to think about the information he collected throughout the day. Clearly he was no longer in his home world, but there were several similarities such as language, cuisine and architecture. Madara lay down on the ground and saw the sky illuminated by the moon. His next objective will be to look for a library and find out more about this world. He also needs to know what to do with the Jubi. Chapter 2, Megaman, Tsukuyami. 3 days have passed since Madara arrived in the new world. During this time he managed to gather a large amount of information in the city library, a large and apparently unprotected place. Upon entering that enclosure he noticed that it was very empty. In his previous world, libraries were one of the most protected places since there were always people of great power in that place seeking knowledge. He was in that place for these 3 days learning about the world he had arrived in, and knowing exactly where he was. Madara realized he was in a city called Kwa, in a country called Japan, which was almost a third the size of the elemental continent. During his stay in the library, he had become close to the girl who worked there. At this moment Madara was sitting inside a machine that was made for public transportation according to the books he had read. He was inside a bullet train. During the trip he found himself in his subconscious chatting with his tenant to finally reach a mutual agreement. After about 3 hours of traveling, he was finally in Tokyo, the capital of the country. The reason he traveled to this place was to test a theory. Madara walked slowly around the city, now dressed in the clothes of this world. During his walk he noticed that the city was strangely on guard. Despite the large number of people coming and going everywhere, his instincts said that something was happening. Seeing the color that the sky had, it wouldn't be long before it got dark. His walk was interrupted after he collided with something. When he fixed his gaze, he found a very beautiful and voluptuous blonde woman. Yasaka, the leader of the yokai, was desperate. She had lost all trace of her husband several hours ago. Despite having ordered the guards to search for her as a wife, she could not stay still, so she also went in search of him. So several hours passed and her concern only increased until she collided with something. When she saw that, or whoever had collided with this, she realized that a tall man with long black hair covering a single eye with it, dressed in a suit of the same color, looked at them seriously. "I'm sorry, it wasn't my intention," Yasaka said nervously as she bowed to apologize. Madara looked at the blonde, analyzing her from head to toe. Despite her innocent face, she had a strange aura compared to humans, besides smelling like a fox. But he also noticed that she had another aura in her belly. Madara listened to the woman's apologies, but without caring about what had happened, he simply shook his suit slightly and continued on his way, leaving the woman with a perplexed look. Several days passed since that incident, and finally Madara managed to find enough information to confirm his theories. "This world doesn't only have humans," he said with a smile. The Achiha was standing on top of the Tokyo Tower in his curly seinen mode while looking at the moon. Ha ho 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 ha ha ha. Madara began to laugh loudly with joy. This world will not be as boring as it seemed, they thought. Everywhere in the world, whether human or not, natural supernatural beings felt a chill run down their spine. But those with greater power felt like something bad was about to happen. The gods of different mythologies went on alert, feeling that their instinct told them that there was danger, and so using their power they began to transport several people of interest to them. In the underworld, the four Mao had quickly gathered, all for the same feeling of insecurity that their hearts had, but this was radically changed after feeling that their instincts screamed at them that something was about to happen, and quickly the Mao Lucifer and Leviathan teleported to the human world to look for their respective sisters, while Falbium and Beelzebub erected a huge barrier above the city of Lilith. Ha 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 ha. Madara kept laughing until he abruptly stopped, made some hand seals and hit the ground. "No judgment." After saying that, a seal with Fuin writing appeared on the ground, followed by a huge amount of smoke. A huge thirst for blood flooded Tokyo, causing humans to stop their work out of fear, as did all the yokai in the city. As the smoke disappeared, the silhouette of a giant beast larger than the Tokyo Tower waving several tails had made the humans faint from such a beast, and the yokai began to run terrified towards their queen's castle. Madara Rikudo Sennin was on top of the Jubi while he had several unconscious yokai held by rings made of the Gadudamas. They will be a sacrifice. Madara slowly began to float, and when he was at a certain height he made a hand seal and said, "Mugen Tsukuyami." The moon slowly turned blood red and then marks appeared on its surface, these being several tomos. The red light of the moon flooded almost every place in the world. The Mao had arrived in the human world and seriously saw the shape of the moon. They quickly entered the rooms of their sisters who were half-dressed and dragged them into a magic circle and disappeared from there. The same thing happened almost everywhere in the world. Baraquiel, a cadre of Gregory, appeared in his old house meeting his daughter Akino, who, upon seeing him, reflected hatred in her gaze, but without caring about this, grabbed her and teleported to his headquarters. Yasaka watched the moon and the enormous beast with great fear while trying to evacuate as many civilians as possible on Amaterasu's orders. What? It was the scream she heard before being pushed into the portal by Susanoo as she watched the beast position itself. And the moon will begin to shine. The whole world was covered by a blinding light that seemed like noon that began to put everyone in a powerful genjutsu, teaching them all regardless of species. Madara's plan was to create a barrier with the energies of living beings around the world to prevent the intervention of these beings called gods and be able to continue with their mission. Chapter 3. Madara had very little time. The Tsukuyomi does not have enough power for it to last, so with some hand seals he said, Kuchios no Edo Tensei. After saying that, the people in front of him were suddenly covered, turning them into shells that then cracked, revealing completely different people. Sure sway, what the hell? Nagato, indifferent look. Conan, what's going on? Mikoto, who are you? Itachi, sad face, silence. Obito, where am I? Everyone turned to look at the front, and the sudden question of the Uchiha woman caught the attention of a black man after he recognized the voice. Mother? Mikoto Uchiha, the second woman in that group, turned to look at her side, seeing the face of her eldest son who was in shock. The black-haired woman was about to answer but was interrupted. I'm sorry to intervene in this very moving family scene, but you'll have to wait. What do you want, you evil one? Obito shouted, trying to attack him in vain. It's useless. The rings that keep them prisoner are the Godudama are almost indestructible. What do you want, sir? Said Mikoto. Yes, I forgot to introduce myself for those who don't know me. I am Madara Uchiha, the first leader of the Uchiha clan and the only one who has managed to become the legendary Rakuto Sennin, he answered. And the reason for bringing you to life partially is that you helped me to carry out my plan. What makes you think we will help you? Conan spoke. I'm certainly not the best at having to ask for help when I can clearly do it alone. But the reason I do it is because I realize that I need help from strong and reliable people to avoid making the same mistakes of the past. What the hell are you talking about? Shursui said, calling Itachi's attention again, renting to recognize another voice. For you to understand me, I need you to know, so I will put you in a genjutsu so that you are aware. After finishing saying that, Madara used his Rinnin Sharingan and put them all in genjutsu, and after a few seconds they came back to their senses. The first person to respond was Nagato. I don't trust you, but if what I saw is true, I'm willing to follow you. If Nagato wants it, I want it too, said Conan this time. It will be interesting to participate in this plan of yours. What do you say, Itachi? Will you join us? Shursui asks. The aforementioned simply nodded. Anyway, he was already dead, so he didn't have to worry. I will accept as long as you meet my condition, said Mikoto. Well, what do you want? Said Madara. I want us to have free will. Fine, I have no problem. But remember this, if you try to betray me and you know what will happen to you. After saying this, Madara released them and then controlled their bodies, which moved just like his, by making a hand seal. Rinnin Tensei no Jutsu. They all shouted at once and a blinding light appeared, and after a few seconds it disappeared, revealing these former shinobi who were living again. Well, I don't have much time. The effect of Tsukuyomi is almost over and matters like our identities and such have already been resolved. We'll take care of the other small details later. After saying that, the moon stopped shining and the massive genjutsu disappeared from the planet. Minutes later, the gods of all mythologies returned to the human world well armed and looked for any clue of what had happened, but they found nothing. The gods like Amaterasu, Susanoo, and Tsukuyomi saw that nothing had happened in Japan. Everything was in order. Puzzled by this, they ordered the yokai to return but remain alert. Chapter 4. Several months had passed since that incident that literally covered the world. All factions, mythologies and others remained in an unusual and alarming vigilance in search of any clue that would lead them to answer the mystery in which they were involved. Madara was now in one of the parks near the Tokyo Tower feeding breadcrumbs to a large group of crows. The unusual scene had scared off passers-by, but it piqued the curiosity of a certain blonde who watched him for a long time. Ignoring this fact, Madara continued with his own thing. He has always liked birds, especially crows, for as long as he can remember. I see you like birds. Madara didn't respond to the blonde's attempt at conversation who stood behind him. The silence continued for a while longer until the breadcrumbs ran out. The birds began to take flight, creating a small fresh breeze in the form of gratitude. A short time later the birds left, and when he turned around behind him he found the same woman as before inviting him to sit next to her under the shade of a tree. Madara had a skeptical look at that moment. Seeing that it was almost noon, and seeing the invitation from the unknown woman, he decided to do the best he could. Madara began to walk towards the blonde woman who maintained her smiling expression, and as he advanced he suddenly changed course and then walked away slowly without looking back. Yasaka now had a perplexed expression on her face. The man with the long black hair who had caught her attention a moment ago was walking away from there, as if she had never been there. A small genuine smile appeared on his face. Madara was walking towards a restaurant that was near the park where he was. Upon arriving, the guards who were at the entrance recognized him and opened the door for him. Upon entering, he began to walk towards a certain place on the corner or opposite the entrance, right at the window that gave a view of the flower garden that was there. Upon arriving, he watched with boredom what was happening in front of him. A group of yakuzas were arguing with the staff about their place. One of them was behaving in an arrogant manner, while another, apparently his henchman, was pulling out a firearm. Madara was a man of little patience, and even more so when dealing with stupidities like this. Without saying a word, he appeared in front of the man and forcefully grabbed the arm that held the weapon and bent it. A shout rang out in that place and the people who were there stopped eating to pay better attention to what was happening. The man with the broken arm dropped the gun and crouched down screaming in pain. His other companions who were watching the scene were in shock. Without paying attention to this fact, Madara advanced to the position of the haughty and arrogant yakuza, grabbed him by the neck with one hand, lifted him up and then threw him to the other side. Then he took out a handkerchief and cleaned the place and then sat down. I want a bowl of ramen with extra tomato. The waitress who was the first to react took the order and left the place very quickly. The atmosphere remained completely silent for 10 minutes. 10 minutes during which the yakuzas who had recovered from the initial shock took care of their boss who was unconscious, and some of them had taken the other injured man to the hospital. After those 10 silent minutes, the tension in the room was finally dimmed by the trembling steps of the waitress who appeared with the aforementioned order. Upon arriving at the table where Madara was, he left the order on the table at the exact moment when the yakuza regained consciousness. When he recovered it, the first thing he remembered was the humiliation he had just suffered, and with a look of anger he found his target eating quietly where he had previously been sitting. Despite the clear reluctance of his henchman, he advanced and without saying anything he slammed the bowl from side to side, making it fall to the ground. Everyone gasped at the action and the henchmen fell to the ground and pressed their foreheads to the ground while praying to their gods that the man in front of them have mercy, because everyone knows who this man is. A powerful man who has the country called Japan in the palm of his hands. Of course, everyone except one. Chapter 5. Get out of my place, you piece of shit. Before he could finish speaking, his face hit the table hard, losing a few teeth in the process. Without time to let him react to what had happened, Madara stamped him 1, 2, 3, 4 and then a 5th time until the dying man's face was no longer recognizable. Madara let go of his head, which clumsily fell to the ground, completely unconscious and on the verge of death. Be thankful I didn't kill you for staining my clothes. Wiping himself with the handkerchief he already had with him, he left the premises to the silence of everyone present. One of the henchmen tried to point a gun at the black-haired man, but one of his companions stopped him and pointed out the symbol printed on the side of his expensive suit. If this man was trembling before, now it seemed that anything that touched him would make him crumble. The symbol that he had seen printed on the suit was a fairly simple one, consisting of a fan resembling a ping-pong paddle with the top part red and the bottom part white. This simple symbol represented one of the oldest and most influential families that Japan had. It was the symbol of the Achiha clan. Madara was now walking aimlessly, and despite being surrounded by a large number of people moving quickly from one place to another, but a black cat managed to sneak into the crowd and began walking right next to him. This cat was a relative of Mikoto Uchiha. In her old world there were beasts with great power that would be your companions if you passed certain tests. The beasts of this world that are considered supernatural have a similar mechanism regarding that. Mikoto had achieved that. After reaching a less crowded and calmer area, the cat began to transmit the information it had through its thoughts, and when it finished, it went back to how it came. Madara stood momentarily in the middle of the street before the indifferent gaze of the public and began to discern the recent information. According to this, cases have been reported from other cats that the yokai in the area have been involved in various fights with several groups of demons. The reason for this is unknown, but the feline's intuition leads them to think that the demons are probably looking for something or someone. Madara started walking again, and this time he went in a specific direction. After about 15 minutes of walking, he arrived at an office building under construction, and upon entering he was surrounded by a large group of 10 demons. Without wasting time, Madara Uchiha killed almost everyone present, leaving the one who was apparently the leader alive. The leader of the demons fell to the ground and tried to flee the scene. But before even trying, he saw how the man who murdered his comrades crouched down to his height, and saw how his pupils changed to a red eye, and then 3 tomes appeared that slowly rotated until he lost consciousness. After a quick interrogation, the leader of the demons fell dead on that spot, and with a small ball of fire the place began to burn. The information I collected was the following. Several groups of demons under the command of an elderly advisor belonging to one of the 72 pillars were ordered to pursue a group of 3 reincarnated demons who had murdered and fled the place. They recently received a sighting report of these 3 individuals in the city of Tokyo. Madara didn't really care about this kind of thing. It's not like he wanted to be some kind of hero. He had simply gotten a little curious when that cat handed him the report, and now that he knew the story, it could be said that his curiosity was satisfied. A strong, icy wind blew past, indicating that winter was almost here. Since he came to this world, the only thing Madara has been doing was wandering around since his subordinates took charge of the missions he had for them, all with the aim of having a solid and real base when he enters the supernatural world. Madara continued his walk while in the distance the sirens of the firefighters who arrived at the scene of the fire could be heard. Chapter 6. Sunlight was beginning to fall on the city of Tokyo, which was covered in a thick layer of snow. The first snowfall of the winter was a storm that lasted almost 2 days. Madara walked through the streets of Tokyo towards an abandoned temple near the southern edge of the city, halfway up a mountain staircase. He was wearing a casual black gala suit and a long white scarf around his neck with a small print of his clan symbol. Madara brought with him 2 bags full of canned food with the aim of feeding a small group of cats that he found some time ago on one of his walks. The Achiha acquired a certain taste for cats during his adolescence thanks to his mother, who raised and used cats as spies like the crows, since usually when they were sent on spy missions they were completely ignored as they were completely harmless. In addition to their physical features that make them look cute is a clear advantage when infiltrating other clans. It didn't take long for Madara to reach his destination, and upon seeing a slightly higher number of cats than his last visit, he let out a slight snort. "I see that you have it quite difficult, don't you?" Madara casually let the question out into the air as he knelt in front of a spotted cat of white, black, yellow and gray, a cat belonging to the group of male cats and also the one designated as the leader of the cats by Madara. "Meow." The cat answered with a happy meow while the Uchiha petted her, but then stopped when he heard a moan of pain and noticed that she had a wound on one of her paws. The serious expression that the Uchiha had hardened. A greenish chakra surrounded his palm and began to heal the damaged paw until he no longer saw any signs of discomfort. "Miura report," Madara said to the cat. When the cat heard her name, she knew what she had to do. "Meow." The cat began to tell about everything that had happened during the days that the Uchiha did not appear, starting with the births of the other cats in the group that were not present, going through the increase in the group due to some stray cats that joined them, and ending with the encounter with some winged beings with black wings similar to bats, where she rescued a small group of 3 cats that had been unconscious in the temple. Madara received the information and stroked Miura's head again, making her happy. The Uchiha stood up and started walking, followed by several male cats in the direction of the temple, recently remodeled thanks to the Mokutan and now functioning as a cat shelter. Some may wonder how Uchiha understands cats. That would have a simple answer. It is a skill gained over the years and now supported by a slight use of one of the paths in cats. Upon arriving at the temple he felt many energies, both different and similar, as well as some weak ones. Madara entered the temple and was greeted by more cats. Many of them meowed with joy. Others bowed with respect, but there was only one that remained defensive. It was a black cat with a bell on its neck. She was protecting two other cats that when she saw them she could feel that their energy was weakening. Madara left his bags aside and with some hand seals he was wrapped in a greenish chakra that was then directed in the form of thread to all the cats that showed any sign of discomfort. The black cat opened her eyes in disbelief and surprise. The energy that the man had just appeared was quite familiar since she used it constantly in her daily life. The energy was senjutsu, but this energy that she felt was much purer than what she could use. One had to have very good control over the energy to not end up in madness in the best of cases, but the man in front of her showed no signs of training, which led her to her second option, and that was that the person in front of her had a natural talent, meaning that he was pure of heart, or as innocent as the latter. The chakra threads connected with the cats, who were immediately covered with the greenish energy, and began to heal. Not long after, several cats began to move freely except for two of them. The black cat, noticing this, began to move from one side to the other, becoming impatient. "Don't worry." The black cat turned in the direction of the voice. "They are completely cured." A few small tears formed when hearing that in her golden eyes. "But I can't deal with fatigue and stress. It would be better if you slept a little more," he said while he opened the cans and fed the cats. Upon hearing this, she couldn't help but run with joy towards her family's savior, and then curl up at his feet again and again, thus showing her joy and gratitude. Madara barely ignored this because of how strangely human the behavior of this particular cat is. Upon seeing her a little more closely, Madara noticed that her energy, like that of the black and white cat alike, and the other younger white cat that accompanied her, were somewhat similar enough to say that they are from the same family as the other cats present, but that they were separated from the tree from one end to the other. The Uchiha didn't pay much attention to this and continued with his own thing. After an hour of being in the temple feeding and naming the newly arrived cats, he laid his eyes on the sleeping cat next to him since he wouldn't let her on his lap. "Kuroka." The cat moved her ear slightly to hear the name. "Your name will be Kuroka." Saying that, the now known as Kuroka did a somersault, leaving her belly unprotected, to which Madara responded by caressing it. Then he saw the two cats that were asleep together in a corner of the place. "Zashur and Shurniko. I think those names will be enough." Kuroka bit Madara's hand, who only turned to look at her. "What don't you like?" Kuroka stood up and gathered around his arm, rubbing herself against it. "Well, you, like the others, will have my last name." Kuroka let out a happy meow at this. A short time later Madara left the temple heading home since it was Saturday, and it was his turn to make dinner. The cats said goodbye to them with loud meows until they no longer saw them. Night was approaching quickly as the Uchiha walked towards one of the city's chemical warehouses, deviating slightly from his way home to attend to a certain matter that was bothering him. When Itachi and Obito arrived, they had made an appearance. "Report submitted. In warehouse number 9, 200 meters north of our location, several groups of demons are gathered. There are approximately 3 dozen middle-class demons along with 3 high-class demons as their leaders," said Itachi. Madara interrupted him. "Give me the details on a scroll later." Madara began walking towards the warehouses while Itachi disappeared into a vortex along with Obito. The Uchiha walked forward calmly, but his annoyance could be felt in his steps. Not long after, on the 10 p.m. news, several reporters reported how several bodies were found mutilated and tortured inside a burning warehouse. The reporters said that this must have been some kind of dispute between mafia groups, and others that it must have been some settling of scores between street gangs. But what they do agree on is that whoever they made angry must have been a big idiot. Chapter 7. It was freezing in Tokyo. People walked in different directions, bundled up in clothes that helped them stay warm. Others prepared their stores with decorations and bright lights to attract customers since the Christmas season had officially begun. Madara was meditating in the training area of the Uchiha Palace while he was accompanied by several cats, including Miura. The clan leader's residence is none other than the Imperial Palace, built by the first shogun during the Edo period in the heart of Tokyo. In the first days in the world, Madara investigated in that library and about the history and culture of the country, and in one of those he found the photo of the Imperial Palace. Its location and distribution of buildings making it look like a small city fascinated him at first, but when reading more about the place he began to lose interest to the point of getting angry when he realized the multiple flaws it had, starting with the size of the land, which was approximately 1/4 of the original land of the Uchiha clan and the Leaf Village in its early years. Madara decided to make the castle his own place, but he found some drawbacks, such as the lack of several important buildings that were lost throughout history. It was in this way that he decided to travel in time. Thanks to his ocular powers and the energy of nature, it was easy to make the jump and change several events in history. Starting with the creation of the clan, going through several wars until the capture of the castle with an armed body of 30 of its weakest clones, taking over the castle in less than a day. Many legends were created over the years and the name of the Uchiha clan became recognized throughout the country and its horizons. The shogun of that time proposed a deal in exchange for his life and that of his vassals. Tokugawa Ieyasu promised that the Uchiha clan would be recognized as the most feared clan in all of Japan, and would give them sovereignty over all of its lands. The deal was too good, but Madara did not accept. The shogun, desperate for this, implored, and Madara, seeing this, felt disgusted. Disgusting to know how the head of the supposed best clan in all of Japan, the Tokugawa clan, knelt before him without even fighting or opposing when they were overwhelmed in their own lands. Madara was ready to erase him from the world but calmed down, and later offered his own deal. The deal was that the Uchiha clan would be an independent clan and the emperor's left hand forever, but they would never get involved unless they so decided. They will have complete freedom to move and no one will dare to move against them unless of course they seek their own extinction. The shogun accepted the deal and from then on they were hand in hand with the imperial government. Although logically many did not like this, the majority were exterminated. The Uchiha gained a lot of power over the years and once Madara got bored he returned to his present, leaving a few dozen clones that would last for several centuries. When he returned in time, just after leaving, he returned to the library to find out what happened next, getting an unexpected surprise. His clan was almost exterminated by what he says were demons that tried to approach them but were driven away. One last clone prevailed in the fighting that took place in Tokyo a few days before it surrendered to the United States during World War II. This clone did exactly what its original ordered, to take its name to the top. Madara continued researching in other books and magazines about the Uchiha clan, realizing that it is slowly disappearing. By chance, in a newspaper he found on one of the shelves, he read an article that the last Uchiha was dying. Upon reading more carefully, he found the place where he resided to be the Uchiha Castle, formerly Tokugawa. Upon arrival, a dying clone was waiting for him while several renowned people accompanied him. With a simple genjutsu, the Loa put the clone to sleep, allowing it to dissipate and transmit all the information it had collected. This is how he learned about supernatural beings. With the new information, Madara carried out the infinite Tsukuyomi plan throughout the planet, rewriting some things and thus creating his identity, and that of his subordinates. Mikoto was having dinner with her son and her friend Shursui. Konan and Nagato were traveling on a mission that Madara gave them while Obito was lying down watching an anime about golden knights on television. Uchiha's happiness could not be measured every time she shared time with her son, even though he was reluctant to show his feelings. Mikoto was having dinner with a smile that was erased by the sudden appearance of Nagato carrying a wounded blue-haired girl. Mikoto along with the others abandoned their activities to attend and find out what had happened. Madara appeared a short time later while Shursui was attending to Konan. "Report," said Madara first. "The mission was interrupted. We were involved in a fight and had to abandon due to the lack of information from our opponent," Nagato said while worriedly watching his partner, who was damaged by some kind of tar-like poison that could not be cured. "They found out who they were," said Itachi, analyzing all the incoming information. "Yes, he was kind enough to tell us his name," he said, turning his gaze to Madara. "He called himself Euclid Lucifuge and was accompanied by a battalion of beings with bat wings." "Did you find out what they wanted?" Madara asked. "Yes, our same objective." After saying that, everyone felt like some kind of barrier covered the city. Then a light appeared and then a loud explosive noise. Everyone went on alert and went out to the patio to find out what was happening. The view I had was quite confusing as I saw humanoid beings of different races fighting with the beings that attacked Nagato and Konan. Chapter 8. Madara and company advanced quickly on the roofs of the buildings, heading to the place where a large amount of energy was felt. "Chief, wouldn't it be better to teleport immediately instead of taking this route?" Obito asked the question with a childish tone behind his Toby mask. Madara gave him an indifferent look and Obito, Toby, stopped halfway, then squirmed uncomfortably and continued on his way. Madara stopped on the roof of a large building followed by Obito, Itachi and Shursui. Mikoto, Nagato and Konan were not with them since they volunteered to protect the palace. Below where he was, the struggle between both sides could be clearly seen. The yokai were trying to protect a blonde woman who had massive bleeding while she was being cared for by several female yokai who were desperately trying to keep her alive. Madara was looking forward to the battle and was analyzing the grass that needed to be cut. In front of him, some crow, tiger, bear and cheetah men dressed as samurai knights were fighting hard against their attackers, some men with bat and crow wings. Their levels were pathetic. They looked like genins in training. The only one who seemed more or less decent was their leader, who had a satisfied smile. His power was close to that of a jounin, and that was only in his current state. Itachi, the aforementioned, took a step forward. "Get this trash out of my sight." After saying that, the Uchiha disappeared. "Shursui, capture the leader." The aforementioned jumped from the building in the direction of the attacking leader. "And me, boss? Don't leave any loose ends," Madara told him. This became intangible and went down through the floor. Madara stared at the top of the rooftop. He wouldn't let his clothes get dirty by insignificant insects. In the battle zone, the samurai were completely exhausted, and the attackers knew it. One more blow, and their mission would be accomplished. When a demon launched himself into the fight along with 3 other companions, they fell to the ground. Everyone looked confused. Those 3 simply fell to the ground, and then a pool of blood formed. Then everyone felt chills and then lost consciousness. The last thing they saw was their own blood spilled on the ground. The demons and fallen fell into chaos and confusion as they saw their comrades fall to the ground like puppets, their strings cut. Some smarter ones took flight and identified their attacker, who was moving quickly. They could barely keep up with their eyes. Itachi, for his part, massacred anyone who crossed his path. Dismemberment, cuts, decapitations, gore, and blood everywhere. No one put up a fight, and that was better because their work could be done quickly. When he finished, he saw those who were saved in heaven, but that would not last long. He made a great leap, appearing in front of the demons and fallen who were saved, and then made some hand seals and created a ball of fire. Fire style, great fireball jutsu. A large ball of fire appeared out of nowhere, surprising the targets, and then incinerated them. The only thing left was their ashes. Upon falling to the ground, Itachi briefly looked at the yokai who, upon feeling his gaze, immediately went on guard despite their instincts screaming at them to flee as far away as possible. Madara, seeing that Itachi was finished, threw himself off the building, falling in front of the women who were healing their leader. Some, despite the accumulated fatigue, tried to defend their leader by getting into an attack position. Madara activated his Sharingan and put them all in a genjutsu, thus falling asleep, and then he fixed his attention on the blonde who looked at him cautiously. He approached her, causing her to be on guard, but all he did was create a greenish energy in his palm, and from it, several chakra threads shot out into the blonde's body, which then began to heal her. Yasaka was mortally wounded, and the only ones who could help her were unconscious in front of a man with a lot of hair who looked at her indifferently. In his current state, he couldn't do anything, so if he died, he would do so fighting until his last breath. But after being covered by a greenish aura, Yasaka thought it was some user of a sacred artifact. But upon feeling the energy, she was able to recognize the power. It was senjutsu. After finishing recovering, the blonde stood up feeling refreshed. "Thank you very much for helping me," he said, bowing. "I haven't helped you." Yasaka didn't expect that answer, so she looked at his face, bewildered. "I saved your life, so you owe me." Chapter 9. Nagato waited at the top of the Uchiha Palace while standing guard. Their mission was to protect their base of operations and to eliminate any opposition they encountered. Thanks to the fact that he was also an Uzumaki, his sensor skills were even better than the Ojab village's ambus. That is why, when he felt the chakra signatures of his companions accompanied by some strangers, he knew that something must have happened despite the success of the mission. He created a shadow clone and sent it to Mikoto to prepare for surgery. She was a better medical ninja than Senju Tsunade, but being the wife of the clan leader in her time, she only attended to members of her own clan, and that is why almost no one knew about her in addition to the nickname she had earned during the Third Ninja World War, being part of the Bloody Trio taking the name of Bloody Demon. Companion of the bloody Habanera Uzumaki Kushina, who was something like a distant cousin of Nagato and Hanahuga, the Crimson Whirlwind name thanks to the new level that it brought to the clan techniques when they became killing weapons. Madara landed right at the entrance of one of the houses within the palace grounds. Behind him were Itachi, Shursui, and Obito, who was carrying the large blonde. And further behind were the blonde Kitsun's guards along with some maids. They entered the house with their guard up and nervous because when they knew in which direction they were headed, they immediately knew who that man with long hair and a serious and intimidating look was. Mikoto, along with an already healed Conan, began to treat the wounds of the new guests of the house while Madara leaned back in the corner of the place. Yasaka was placed on a bed in one of the many rooms in the place to rest. One of the maids begged to be allowed to be cared for, which was allowed thanks to Mikoto. The night sky slowly began to change color, and a cheerful orange color faded across the sky. Yasaka woke up from her dream quite dazed and confused for not finding a familiar image around her. A woman with brown hair and dressed in a purple kimono with cherry decoration approached her and hugged her. This was one of the maids who accompanied her when they were attacked. Her name was Lucia. Lucia cried while hugging her. The blonde, confused by this, felt a bad feeling. "I'm sorry, Yasaka-sama, but we couldn't save him. The damage was irreversible." The kid's skin prickled and she unconsciously touched her belly, and feeling an emptiness there, she let out a cry of agony. "No, oh my son!" Elsewhere, Madara stood in front of Euclid's demon as his eyes glowed an intense red color, while the three tomos slowly spun. Chapter 10. Winter was coming to an end. During this entire time, the city of Kyoto was fortified. All the yokai, without exception, were searching for the whereabouts of their queen, who disappeared before returning to the palace. The queen's guards went from house to house, searching every square meter of the city for clues, although no one remembered this fact. The castle where Madara and the other members of the Uchiha were staying was never searched, and this is due to the numerous seals that surrounded the castle grounds. Every time they passed by there, every yokai with the intention of checking was victim of a genjutsu that made them believe that they had already passed by there and found nothing. This was the case throughout the winter season. By mid-February the snow had almost disappeared and in its place many ponds and puddles had formed. For Madara, this was a fairly relaxing day. While there were times when he considered setting fire to the city to attract the attention of powerful beings and fighting them to quell his thirst for battle, it always ended up as just another plan to be shelved for another day. Today was a rather wet day. The now patriarch of the clan walked leisurely through the gardens to feed some crows at Mikoto's request. Behind him was a blonde woman who followed him silently, while behind her there were almost a dozen cats following them. Both were doing their thing. One was feeding a group of crows while the other was playing with the cats. When the breadcrumbs were finished, Madara turned his attention to his guest. Yasaka, feeling a gaze, turned to see her, so to speak, kidnapper. "You've been ignoring me for weeks and you still haven't explained why I'm here." Madara didn't answer his question. He was too stupid and decided not to pay any more attention to it. Madara retreated, leaving Yasaka alone with the cats. She just yearns for it. She's been locked in the castle for almost a month. Since she and her subordinates rescued her, she hadn't left the grounds. At first, she thought it was the people's hospitality, and she gladly accepted. But when she tried to send a message to let them know she was okay, her spells were blocked. Her summons would faint after crossing the first perimeter wall. When she sent one of her guards, she realized she was now kidnapped. She tried to threaten these people, but no one was moved. Instead, they gave her some freedoms and duties for the time being so that she wouldn't suffer from boredom. Neither revealing their status nor trying to bribe them was able to change their minds. In the end, their option was to try to escape while their guards tried to buy them time. That didn't work either. Now, like the others, they have seals on some points of their bodies that prevent them from molding senjutsu, turning them into simple humans. She didn't understand the reasons why they didn't let them leave. The only thing they said was to be patient. It was already midday. Everyone had finished eating some ramen they had ordered through delivery since Yasaka had to cook, and unfortunately it didn't do justice to its appearance. It looked so strange. How is it possible that some rice buns looked like lost souls? Overlooking such a failure, Madara decided to take a walk around the city. The streets were crowded as usual, cars moving everywhere, young people shopping. It was normal in this world. Achiha sometimes felt nostalgic for his past life. He remembered the days when Konoha was founded, and he and Hashirama sometimes ended up arguing about how the village would be organized. In the end, it was decided to keep as many trees as possible. As Madara remembered those days, he felt like one of his connections with the cats disappeared. Madara stopped in the middle of bustling pedestrian traffic. More connections were cut until a special one was cut off. Miura. Madara disappeared from the scene. He was running at high speed across the rooftops of buildings in the direction of the cat temple. When he arrived, he saw a group of people dressed in Shinto priest costumes obeying the orders of one dressed as a saifuku. Each one was attacking the cats. Some had already died and others were barely breathing. A rage took hold of Uchiha Madara. No one dares to touch his cats and live to tell the tale. Madara wasted no time and advanced among the priests, killing them in painful ways. As he advanced up the stairs, destroying his enemies with his hands, he reached the building. There was the one who seemed to be the leader, holding Miura by the tail, and he was smiling. The priests were surprised when they saw him arrive, because when they saw his lifeless expression, an unprecedented fear invaded them. The leader noticed the newcomer. He was holding a blood-stained bamboo sword. You will wish for death with all your being. Madara disappeared from everyone's sight. Obito was looking for his beloved leader. He had come to the castle to deliver the report from his friend Itachi, but when he couldn't find him, he decided to wander around. While he was eating ice cream in a park, he thought he heard heartbreaking noises. Ah, it must be the wind. Without giving it importance, this next one eating his ice cream. Chapter 11. There were very few things that bothered Uchiha Madara. One of them was obviously Hashirama Senju, his best friend and the person he hated the most. He had taught him to tolerate many things, starting with the fact that he was a complete idiot, to learn to control his anger, and finally to forgive other people's lives. While the last part was the hardest because living with such stupid people all the time was a pain, in the end he learned that those lives were so insignificant that he even wondered why he allowed himself to deal with them in the first place. But now, this was completely different. Madara, along with the other Uchihas he brought to this world, were in front of a huge black quartz monolith, and on it were the 73 names of his pets. Madara felt great hatred towards humans who dared to raise their hands. The death of all these cats will be paid for that same night with the blood of those bastard sons of bitches. Yasaka was in a secluded place from the funeral ceremony that was taking place. She and her followers watched the procession in silence. Several cats escorted a small wooden cart that was pushed by the same man who keeps her captive within the castle walls. All I could do was keep silent. Although she was curious about this strange way of burying the dead, since she had never heard of such a ceremony, what worried her most was the heart of the man named Uchiha Madara. His face was serene, but his heart was being invaded by hatred and resentment. The amount of negative feelings she felt coming from him was the most she'd felt in a long time. That only confirmed the amount of love she felt for her loved ones. One by one the bodies of the cats covered in aromatic bandages were thrown into an oval pan with a scorching reddish fire that quickly cremated them. By the time the sun set and the moon took its place, Madara, who was kneeling, stood up, clapped 3 times, and then left. Everyone left after he left. Yasaka headed straight to where Madara went, but on his way he was stopped by a woman. "Mikoto-chan, what's going on?" She shook her head. "He needs to be alone." Yasaka didn't like this response. She thought she had to be with this grieving man right now before it was too late. The feeling of hatred filled the atmosphere. But the yokai queen tried to reply but was silenced again. "Excuse me, but this is something only he can do. We can't interfere." The one speaking was the boy whose name, if she remembered correctly, was Obito. The tone in which he said those words made her feel pain in her stomach, as if something very bad was about to happen. In the end Yasaka gave up but promised herself that once she saw him she would try to spend more time with him. Madara was in his room. He was in a dogesa stance, and in front of him were his armor, a pair of ninlados, 24 shuriken, his knuckle dusters, and his naginata, short sword. Madara was very clear about what he would do at midnight. He would leave no survivors. He would spare no one. If from now on he is persecuted as a criminal, he will face it as if it were a gentle breeze, even if he knows that his opponent is a furious hurricane. A shadow appeared beside him. Madara had noticed it a few minutes ago. "What do you want?" A black toga with a long collar and red clouds fell beside him. Madara saw it out of the corner of his eye. "It will be useful to you." A small smile appeared and then disappeared. "I hadn't seen this robe in a while since the founding of Akatsuki. If you want to attract attention, it would be better to direct your attention elsewhere." The one who had left him the clothes was none other than Uchiha Itachi. He withdrew, leaving Madara alone, who began to prepare to leave. Today was a rather peculiar day. Today was the first red moon of the year. This night will be known as the Night of the Blood Moon. Several Shinto clans were exterminated that night. The news spread around the world, but the most affected were the residents of Japan themselves, who found the bodies of the priests and other members of the Himejima clan hanging upside down from trees, with clear signs of torture. The leader of this clan was still alive but had the name Miura tattooed on his back with very deep cuts. Chapter 12. The following days after the massacre of the members of the different temples that were in the city of Kyoto, Madara passed in silence. Yasaka, although she was angry about all those deaths, understood a little the pain that the Uchiha was experiencing. The first few days she respected his privacy, but as those days turned into weeks she began to worry. One day she tried to get him out of the room where he had locked himself. In the end, the only thing she got was that now she had permission to leave. That was something completely unexpected, but despite that he stayed. His servants returned to the faction domains to organize all the accumulated hustle and bustle, and he waited for Madara. Beside him, motionless and completely silent. He had fasted for 4 days with the Uchiha, and by dawn on the 5th day, his companion had left. When she came out of her stupor she tried to find him, although her search didn't last too long. Madara Uchiha was training in the garden with the boy named Shursui. Yasaka breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing the dark-haired man in better spirits, she had managed to ease her worries. The Kitsune received her breakfast that Mikoto, a friend she had made during her stay inside the castle, offered her. They both sat in silence as they watched the entertainment. The dull blows that Shursui tried to give were skillfully dodged with one hand. Madara moved in a simple way, as if everything he was doing was something as natural as yawning or taking a short walk. In the end, Shursui wasn't able to land even a single hit on him in his basic state. Obito, who was eating popcorn while watching the show and making fun of his classmate, was punished and forced to clean the castle with only a glass of water and a toothbrush. While normality was returning among the Uchiha, the outside world became more chaotic. The political situation of humans was increasingly unstable and people feared a new war. In the supernatural world, things were tense. If humans entered into a fierce struggle like last time, their interests would be seriously affected. Both the demons and the fallen had abandoned their state of neutrality in human affairs and began to manipulate things to avoid possible harm. The angels did not interfere. They, like some factions, were looking for the origin of that terrifying presence that had been felt some time ago in Japan. They knew something had happened, but they didn't know what it was exactly. The only thing they could do was investigate. While humans were preparing for the worst, the Uchiha clan slowly became one of the richest families in the world by taking advantage of the current situation to gain power. This didn't go unnoticed. Seraphal Leviathan noticed the subtle change taking place around her. An ancient family was beginning to gain ground in the upper echelons of industry. This was a good reason to keep a close eye on them. She performed her job so well that she managed to arrange a meeting with the clan leader and offer him an incredible proposal. "Please, I beg you. Let my program be broadcast on your television stations." In front of Madara, who was taking his daily walk through Kyoto Park, was a girl of who knows how old, with pigtails and dressed in a ridiculous uniform, begging him, while holding his arm tightly, to give the green light to her program. Chapter 13. It's one thing to be one of the most important people in your society, and it's another to act like a child to win the favor of an older man. While this was strange to many, it was annoying to a certain Uchiha who tried to live his day-to-day life calmly. "Please, please, 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 please." Madara was running through the courtyard that is now the public park of the castle in which he resided. "No." Seraphal Leviathan, one of the 4 demon kings, crashed into a lamppost. "Please, please, 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 please." Madara was feeding pigeons in the farm, and next to him a magical girl was begging him, although in the end she ran away when Madara, accidentally, threw breadcrumbs at her, causing the pigeons to fly towards her, surprising her. One sunny day that Madara had decided to use to clean the great walls with nothing more than a toothbrush as punishment for eating cat food, there was also a Mao involved who was crying since she was caught trying to sneak into his domain, dressed in a bush costume. By the 4th week, Madara decided that enough was enough when Seraphal summoned him to an impromptu meeting in the middle of the street, and wanted to make him sign in exchange for not revealing some embarrassing photos of him. The Uchiha just decided to post those same photos on Facebook, and then label Seraphal as a cat-hating accuser. This earned him an incredible amount of criticism and ultimately drove the magical girl away for good. While it would have been easier for him to put her in a genjutsu, the truth is that he felt that it would show that she was worth something of his time and that he would not allow it. While Madara was making his morning walk through the streets of the city accompanied by a small black kitten who was the daughter of his beloved Miura. As Madara advanced, he noticed some strange movements among the crowd and the hustle and bustle. -9 above, 4 on the sides, 2 look like simple civilians and about 5 are hidden. Years of experience on the battlefield gave Madara a sixth sense to read the environment around him. Most of those present were fallen angels if he wasn't mistaken, and there were also about 50 yokai around the area where he was all ready to fight depending on his way of acting. Madara decided to stop at a restaurant. He'd seen a half-price offer on desserts, and thought it would be a good idea to check them out. Maybe one would be worthy of his palate. Madara, upon entering the store, saw 2 things. First, a man with blonde hair calmly drinking a cup of coffee while others were lying on the floor trying to breathe. Second, the store's decor was a mess, plus the employees were unconscious, and there was a guy who looked sick. He clearly had killing intent, although Madara barely noticed it. If he hadn't entered the store, he most likely would have ignored him. His appearance clearly caught the attention of the subjects present. Madara looked from one to the other, silence settled and a heavy, uncomfortable atmosphere appeared. I guess the store is closed. Madara turned to look at the glass door at the entrance, and the sign was still in the open position. The Uchiha turned it around and, satisfied with this, decided to sit at the bar and wait to be served. Hey, you piece of shit. You're stuck in a private conversation, go away. A guy who was clearly an idiot tried to appear strong with what little will he had, although he took the wrong target. The boy touched Madara's shoulder, and he grabbed him and hit his head on the stool and then threw him against the floor and put his foot on it. I hope the people in charge show up soon. They were simple words from a man who wanted to eat some dessert if his look indicated it when he saw him reviewing the menu. The sick guy stopped releasing his intention by exchanging it for some interest in the human who suddenly appeared and had neutralized one of his men.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.